and who to say heck yeah to. And we're going to have Grace leading that, so she's brilliant. I'm excited for it.
Thank you, Ben. Anybody else with anything this morning? I think that's all I knew about. All right, great. Well, super. Let's get right into it. I'm really, really excited to have Dan here. He's been on our stage a time or two over the last number of years, and exciting timing because he's got some big stuff happening here in the community on Friday. I just, I can get into this later, but I'm just so excited to have Dan in Bismarck building feature-length films. That's a really big deal, and the quality of the work. Personally, I love a lot of your settings are out in the Badlands. We just spent 2 weeks mountain biking out there. Had to come back with a friend from New York State. And we got back, we had to show our Badlands girl just to see some familiar territory. So anyway, without further ado, let's get Dan Bielinski up here to tell us a little bit about what he's got going on.
Thank you. Oh, wait, you don't need that. Take that one. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. All right, yeah, no problem. Let me just figure out how to control this. Do I? Okay, there we go. So my name is Daniel Bielinski. I moved to North Dakota in 2015 with my family. I had 2 kids at that point. I was living in New York City and working as an actor, mostly not working as an actor. And I got a call from the University of Mary to direct the theater program here in Bismarck. And I came and visited, and I fell in love with the place. And we've got 6 kids now, and it's really become home after 10 years. A really great community for my wife and my kids, and yeah, we wouldn't change it for anything, I think, at this point. I think it's also been interesting to move. Like, my agent and manager were furious at me for moving from New York City to North Dakota. Because they said, well, you might as well be throwing yourself off a bridge. They said it in similar vivid language. What has been an unexpected blessing since moving here is having the opportunity to continue storytelling, and I think in a much more meaningful way than I would have if I had stayed in New York City. I started, as soon as I moved here, I started writing and producing short films, and then in 2018, I think it was, we started Canticle Productions. It was just it was me. And then we started 5 years ago producing feature-length films. A Heart Like Water, Sanctified, End of the Rope, and now Hazel and Medora that are coming out. Hazel in the fall, and Medora in the spring. But really discerning, I think it's getting older, and I think it's just having spent the time here in North Dakota and hearing North Dakota stories, and having a deeper appreciation, I think, of what stories are meaningful to me and what stories do I want my children to hear, has really shaped me and in the storytelling that I'm doing now. And then I've been given this gift, I think, of being here in North Dakota and finding so many true North Dakota stories that speak to what's important to me. So maybe I'll talk about this in a moment, but we can go on to the trailer for Hazel, if that works up there for you. This is just the teaser trailer.
I want to go home, Hazel.
I know, darling.
Are you afraid?
No. No, I'm not. Are you?
Not if you're not.
You know I'm not afraid.
I give it
Hazel!
There's nothing I won't do. When I am next to you.
least eventually when we go for when we secure wider distribution, but we just got the teaser for now. You know, it's interesting having these films. We are, in a way, every film is a new startup. You kind of start from scratch each time, and so part of what I'll talk about today, I think, is, you know, what does it look like to achieve sustainability for a company when you're kind of like starting both creatively and financially and logistically from square one, in a way, when you start a new film. I'm trying to wrap my head around that. That said, there has been growth from project to project, and certain people, you know, return with each project, and there has been some level of sustainability that has come. We shot Hazel and Medora in the Kmart building on State Street. We took it over in December of 2023, and we moved out in December of 2024. I think for a minute we had a pipe dream of like, yeah, we're gonna stay here. Kmart is the place for us. We're for the next 50 years. This is gonna be Canticle Mart. Yeah, it was a blessing to have for the time, but I think I did heave a sigh of relief when we moved out. It was a year of not just converting into a movie studio and creating different departments, camera and sound and the AD department and hair and makeup and costumes and catering and the construction zone, art department, like having these different departments set up all around the store, not to mention the sets that we would build and shoot in. We brought in an LED volume wall, 40-foot volume wall that was in the center of the space. On the back wall, and we shot exteriors there in the Kmart. But we also had to do things like fix the lighting and fix the plumbing, install new toilets, and clean up all the fire extinguisher residue that had been blown off on the floor by people who had broken into the store before we moved in. There was a long story of many things that had to be done with the building, but in the end, it made the films possible. 100,000 square feet is nothing to sneeze at, and it was a blessing for us. One of the challenges of Hazel, and this goes back to what I was saying, like each film is a startup. We start again at the beginning. Hazel was a blizzard movie. 80% of the movie takes place during a whiteout blizzard, and so I was confronted with the creative and logistical challenge, which becomes a financial challenge, of what do we do to create a blizzard. Initially, I was thinking we would shoot outside in the winter time, but it quickly became obvious that this would not be possible. We can't shoot outside in a true North Dakota winter with a crew of 50 people for 12 hours a day for 4 weeks, including children on set. Even if we could summon down a blizzard from on high every single day, which of course is not possible, so we had to create it artificially in a studio. We got some pickup shots that were outside, but really starting from a level of complete ignorance about, okay, so we got to create a blizzard inside, how do we do that? And trying everything, all sorts of different bad ideas to figure it out, because there's not a handbook on how do you do this. And industry and trade secrets sometimes are kind of kept kind of close to the chest, and so we had to kind of figure out our own way to do it. But we ended up creating, in the Kmart, we created like a 10,000 square foot area, and walled it in white and then wrapped it in plastic. It looked like a meth lab. but not that I know what that looks like. But we pumped it full of haze and fog and artificial snow. That's why we wrapped it in plastic, to contain the haze and the fog, and then the artificial snow, and it just created this very murky, whiteout situation. And then the snow banks were built with 2x4s and chicken wire with snow blankets, and then the artificial snow pumped on top of those. And then we brought in actors and sets, humongous schoolhouse sets and wagons and horses, plus actors and crew and cameras and lights and everything. So yeah, 10,000 feet might sound like a big space, but it got eaten up very quickly. Yeah, but we couldn't have done it without the Kmart space. So God bless Kmart. We are grateful for Kmart. So going back to what I was saying about sustainability, has just been on my mind for a while. I started a nonprofit called Grain of Wheat, and the reason why I thought this might be a good step to take is because I feel mission-driven. I feel mission-driven in what we're doing, telling North Dakota stories here in North Dakota. There's a certain tone, there's certain themes that we like to explore with our films. And so it seemed to make sense in that respect, and the fact that we have education, like all my not all my students, but many students from the University of Mary participate in the productions. Also high school students, Bismarck High School, there are students from NDSU, they're all over the state come and they get this mentorship on set from the industry professionals that we bring in. It's really, anybody who's been through an MFA film program usually doesn't have the kind of opportunity that our students get being on the film set. So it made sense to me to establish this nonprofit and see where this might lead us. Some of the projects that we have coming up, Theodore Roosevelt's story, the Churchills. If anyone doesn't know that story, that's a very fascinating story about an early baseball team, integrated baseball team that was started by a used car salesman in Bismarck back in the early decades of the 1900s, and Satchel Paige was a part of that, and a really awesome baseball story. Little Chicago, Minot was known as Little Chicago. During that time, Al Capone had some presence in North Dakota. They bring it down from Canada through Minot. So Minot has a colorful history. Island Empire, that's a recent project, but that's meant to draw from stories of early settlers in McKenzie County, especially kind of told through the eyes of this midwife who went and delivered hundreds of babies across McKenzie County at that time. She was trained in medicine by a native midwife. Very, very fascinating story. And Poe, and then Sitting Bull. Obviously some really beautiful Native American and tragic Native American stories to be told here as well, working with the Native American community here in the Dakotas. There's no shortage of North Dakota stories to be told. Some people will ask me, where do you come up with these stories? And well, stories is not my problem. We got plenty of them. We got a lot going on. Education is, as I said, a big part of what we have always been doing. We've always brought students on set, and it blows their minds to be able to be a part of productions like this and then see their work on the big screen and contribute in meaningful ways. Like I do it to my children too. My son is in Hazel. He was 11 years old when he was in the movie. My daughter was 7. But I believe in giving people responsibility and asking them to step up to that responsibility. I do that with my own children, and I believe in doing that with my students as well. And that makes it all the more gratifying for them when they get to the end of the project. And they weren't like, I wasn't just running coffee. Sometimes I did. But I also made that contribution to the film, and they can see it on the big screen. Because if they take charge and they step up, then we will give them more and more responsibility. We want them to be professionals working alongside the great and experienced people that we bring in. And then the the dream is to have our very own Kmart, our very own original Kmart. To have a space where we can produce these films, but then also have it's the hope is not to just house film productions, but I'm also I love theater as well. So to have a beautiful stage that's a part of this and be able to serve really as an arts center for Central and Western North Dakota, I feel like that would be a very beautiful and cool thing to have. Not just to make our productions possible, but to house other productions around the state and be a support system for many different art forms around the state, especially in Central and Western North Dakota. Yes. Well, that sort of brings me to the end. I think that moving my unknowns moving forward, I think is like I talked about, getting away from we're in a new film, that's a new startup, going to start from scratch. How do we make this sustainable, and is the nonprofit the right avenue for that? And there's a lot of people who have come to me with very, very set ideas. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. I've had plenty of consultants in Los Angeles who say this is how you do it. But I feel like in a lot of ways, producing feature-length films in North Dakota hasn't been done exactly the way we've been doing it before. And so, in a lot of ways, I think we're finding a new way, and that's a journey of discovery right there. I think that's good. Thank you.
Okay, Ross, if you want to grab the big mic there, I'll grab that from you.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, of course.
I guess first things first. Friday, as in like 2 days from now, Hazel is premiering at the Grand Theater, right?
Right. Yep.
And a few tickets maybe left.
Yeah,
available
there's a
for
handful
Friday?
of tickets left
Usually
for.
sell that out, I think.
Yeah, we fortunately do. But I think there's a handful of tickets left for Friday, and then a few more for Saturday night. But Friday night is meant to be kind of the big night where we have the screenings at the Grand Theater, but then there's an after party afterwards at the Bismarck Event Center Arena. We took that space that we're going to create different stations all around the room that give you an insight into what went into the making of the movie. We have a blizzard simulator that we're going to set up in there, so you can step into your very own little Kmart.
Little winter preview.
Yeah, that's right. Full of haze and fog and artificial snow. And the cast and crew will be coming in, and so you'll get to meet, and we'll have a Q&A both with the crew and with the cast. Show the trailer for Medora as well, which is coming out in the spring. Hopefully give a really in-depth look at all the work that went into our year at Kmart, what went into the producing of a Blizzard movie in North Dakota.
Janya and I were fortunate enough to visit it when you were filming in
Nice.
Kmart,
Yeah, cool.
and saw the plumbing and really appreciated the challenges that you guys faced, and the worlds that you created inside Kmart was phenomenal. And yeah, I think we had our tickets for both the premiere and the after party the day they came available.
Thank you.
If any of you have an interest in filmmaking or anything, I think that thing at the Civic Center is going to be really enlightening and fun. So, Janya.
Thank you.
I have to So I was going to talk a little bit about Kmart, so thank you for bringing it up. No, that was great. It was fun. I remember walking through those doors, and you're walking through like Medora, and then you look around, and then suddenly you're in a blizzard, and it was
Yeah.
so cool. But my question is, so I know, out in those filmmaking areas, they have all the infrastructure, right? You've got all these co-located, you've got all the synergy around the craftspeople and the lighting and all of this. How have you, could you speak a little bit about how you find the talent that you use in your films? Because I know you try to keep a lot of it regional or local, and what that journey is like. And you said, you have some continuity, but you're always also starting with new challenges. So where have you been able to find the talent and the skill sets that you need?
Yeah, well, I think you're putting together the team both in front of the camera and behind the camera. I think that, as with any business, I think the longer you do it, the more people you know, and the easier that becomes. And for our actors, we had a great casting director, and so I didn't personally know any of the lead actors that we brought in from larger markets, but it's his job to know and to cast actors in movies, and so he was the great person to add to our team, and that was his contribution. And then crew, sometimes you just find a person like our composer. I love our composer, and he's out of Minneapolis. He's absolutely world class, and you find people like him, and you're like, well, that's my guy, and I never want to give him up. And I think you see that at every level. Like Steven Spielberg, when he's working, he has his DP that he never wants to live without, and he only wants to work with his composer, obviously, John Williams. And once there's a language and an understanding and a trust established, you just want to. You want that to stay, because filmmaking is, I think it's it is like any other business. Like, you have to have a trust and a good rapport, and be able to work through constant problem solving. It's like just constant problem solving on set. You do a lot of prep, and like, this is the way it is in your head, but then things change once you get into Kmart, and you gotta, as they say. And that's what Steven Spielberg, I think, said that. So you just got to adapt, and if you don't have people who are level-headed and headed in the same direction as you, that can lead to problems. And so, yeah, getting good people who are calm and focused and generous is just as important to me as their experience level, as their IMDb credits. Yeah.
I think there's an intensity, you've got just so much time to shoot, you've only got your talent for so long, and that's a layer of pressure that people need to be able to work through. Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good aspect, or a good thing to remember, that maybe sets it apart from other businesses, is just that everything is so condensed. Like, you're shelling out so much money every day to get people there, to get the locations, to get the, to cook the food, whatever you're paying the money every single day is so tightly scheduled, and you are on a timeline because that actor is flying out the next day to shoot a television show or whatever. So if you don't get it, you don't have it. And especially when you're making an independent film, you don't have the luxury of going back to Warner Brothers or Disney and saying, well, we need an extra $6 million for pickup shots or whatever. The way that superhero movies would be like, well, we didn't like this in the edit, so let's go back and like bring everybody back. We certainly don't have that luxury. So what we have is what we get. There's no going back and fixing our mistakes later.
Ben.
Speaking of sustainability, have you had any luck with streaming, or have you looked into streaming services? I'm sure you have, but if you could talk a little bit about that, that'd be interesting.
Sure, streaming services. Yeah, so all the films that we've done up to this point are on streaming services. You attach a distributor, and then the distributor has those relationships and gets it on the platforms. The better the distributor that you have, the the more exposure you will get on the streaming platforms. Yeah, and so like we've been in this world leading up to, and I feel like we're just kind of like on the edge of it right now, between doing ultra low budget indie filmmaking where there's no stars attached, to like Hazel is like right on the edge, where we have some actors who have some very good credits, and one of our actors who plays the father, Stelio, he's done so much in his life, has played supporting roles in many different shows and movies, and so his list of contacts is very extensive, and he's been helping just with the outreach to distributors now, because he knows the VP of sales and acquisitions at these distribution companies, and I think having name talent in the movie obviously will go a long way. If you go to a distributor and you say, I have Sydney Sweeney in my movie, then they will say, yes, we want to talk with you immediately, right? It will just open those doors. But then to attach a star like that requires she requires a big paycheck, and it's a ripple effect, because it's not just attaching the star, but then you're shooting with a union crew, and then certain things, she needs her pink M&Ms and all that stuff. There's just so many things that come along that just run into money. It's not the fact that, oh, we need to carve out an extra $1 million for her. It's like, well, no, actually we need an extra $6 million, because just attaching her has all these ramifications. So finding that kind of sweet spot, because my goal in the end is not to make a $40 million movie. To get to that point, I like to have, I'll never say never, I guess, but I like to be able to tell stories that I think are beautiful and that I want my children to see. This is the emotional inspiration that I have for what I was doing. I think if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be doing it. So if we get to $40 million pictures, you lose a lot of creative control. I think not that I'm a creative or like a absolute control freak, but I think I've heard many stories from people just directly who've just lost control, and things spiral out, not only like financially in terms of budget, but just creatively. It becomes something that they didn't want it to be. And it is something that I've appreciated just about Canticle, is that there's been, I don't look at any of our work as like, well, that was a complete success. Of course, I don't look at the work like that. I always see the flaws in it, but I think that there has been consistency to the brand, and I would like that to be able to continue. I got off on a tangent there, but
Well, and I think just there's so much content in the world that just being on a streaming platform without all of the extra pushes to bring that to the surface where people even know it exists is
Right.
going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and that's where attaching a really good distributor, makes all the difference there. Because we could get our own movies on Amazon without a problem. Like we could do that ourselves, but nobody's going to know about it.
Arnie.
Yeah, so Dan, Arnie here.
Yeah.
We were also out there at the Kmart studio with Evan and Janya, and my bride and I were just completely blown away with everything that you were doing out there.
Thank you.
One question in regards to the Churchill movie, and then the other one with Theodore Roosevelt, as far as like with the library coming up, and then when I played baseball, how are you going to market that film? Because I think there's a great place for it, especially when you start talking about the early 1900s and Satchel Paige, and everybody knows Satchel Paige. It just seems like there'd be a natural draw to some national, international marketing for that film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how are we gonna lean into that? Yeah. Well, I don't have a very detailed plan for that, other than like knowing just instinctively that it does have that appeal. and always having had that project in the back of my mind for a while, in the Theodore Roosevelt project, I was like, well, we got to build towards that. We don't want to start at that. But I think with each project we've gotten more ambitious, and I think I've grown, I think, as a storyteller from project to project, and so the hope is that Hazel, the distribution, the offers that we're considering now from distributors and the conversations will open doors for the Medora film, which is just about complete as well, and then that'll open the doors for and create opportunities for the next films too, because we do want to make them. They are stories with a great national appeal, I think, beyond what the films are that we've created to date. So I would say that there's not all that much that I can do in the short term that I'm aware of, other than make good films and create opportunities for those. It's just like walking up the stairs one step at a time, I think, and be like, okay, well, I got to make sure my foot is securely on this step now with this film, and that should hopefully create opportunities for the next one. Not getting ahead of ourselves in that way. I think that's always been something that's been present in my mind. Because there's, especially after End of the Rope, I had a lot of consultations with executive producers in Los Angeles and people who have, again, long list of credits, and I pay them for their wisdom, and they were pushing me to make Hazel a certain way, to do it the Hollywood independent way, which is you raise a certain amount of equity and then you attach star talent, and then you use that to secure pre-sales, and then you get gap loans and bank loans to fill in the rest of the budget, and it becomes like this is the standard way that it's done with Hollywood independent productions. But I just felt like we weren't ready for that, and I was worried about things spiraling, like I mentioned, in a way that would not do service to the stories itself, and would kind of undermine eventually what we were trying to build here. Because people in Los Angeles really don't understand, I think, what it is we're doing here. And it's not that they don't know their business. They know their business in Los Angeles. So that's, I think, been kind of the struggle that I've been having, is like, well, we're doing something that's different in North Dakota. It's more at home in Los Angeles, but we don't want to be in Los Angeles. We want to be here. How do we build infrastructure here, with me having no business background other than an MFA in acting?
Well, you're doing
Biggest
pretty-
mistake of my
doing pretty
life.
well with- Marlo.
Thanks for being here, Dan.
Thanks, Marlo.
I'm really curious about directing children, because this isn't Little House on the Prairie where they're dancing around in prairies while you're directing them. You're directing them in a snowstorm. So I would really like to hear a little bit about that and compare that to like directing adults.
Sure. Sometimes it's easier than directing adults. Yeah. So for Hazel, the two little kids were my kids. They have done theater and they've done some film with me before, but I wrote the parts kind of with them in mind, not just purely out of nepotism, but just logistically, if we were going to shoot this non-SAG, if we were going to shoot this non-SAG, I had to have kids that didn't need to clock out at a certain time. SAG is very strict rules about when, and for good reason. You don't want to abuse your child workers. But my kids my kids are hard workers, and I wanted them to be attached to the project so they get the experience, but I also think they would just do well in the roles. Working with them was good because we had the relationship. I think so much of working with child actors is the trust that's between yourself and the child, because a lot of times, when you're directing, like my daughter is 7 years old, and she has great instincts, but sometimes you just want them to be, they just need to be open, they just need to be receptive, and so you can be feeding them lines, like, now say it this way, or say it this way, and they just need to be open and not in their head about it, the way that if you give a line reading to an adult, they're going to say, what are you talking about? I'm an artist, don't talk to me like that. So you establish a certain way to talk to the adults and to talk to the children. But my children trusted me, and yeah, we had that relationship. It really that went a long way. We auditioned some kids out of LA, these little 6-year-old girls who have a very long list of credits on NCIS or whatever, but. In the end, I just thought it would be logistically and creatively much preferable to use my own children. Yeah.
Well, and a good experience for them as well.
Yeah.
So I'm super intrigued by Grain of Wheat Studios. Where are you in that process? And is there is it connected somehow to Canticle the way you're envisioning it? And kind of where are you in that?
Yeah, well, we're really at the beginning, and I'm going to make an announcement about it on Friday at the premiere. It's independent of Canticle, but I think like what I've just kind of brought my experience and my my challenges and what I've learned from them to this nonprofit. I think I'm still trying to crystallize in my head, clarify in my head. Well, what is the best path forward for for the fundraising, for the longevity of this, for the sustainability of going project to project, and so it's separate, but hopefully it's something that can provide some sustainability moving forward.
Right, and connected, I guess, in the sense that selfishly, from a Canticle perspective, having that resource available would be phenomenal. There aren't many feature-length films built in North Dakota, are there? I mean, if you look back, I mean, I don't know of any or many. So what you're doing is super unique, and having a facility like that allows you to keep coming back. Sounds like you're not lacking stories to tell, which is encouraging. I'm glad. Yeah. Just keep them coming.
Yeah.
Well, we are unfortunately out of time already, because I could do this longer for sure. So we always like to ask the same, the last question. And Ross, would you please do the honors?
I can. Maybe. Dan, thank you very much for what you do. Bringing this industry to North Dakota is super cool, and the stories that you tell are very interesting. So what can we as the 1 Million Cups community do to help you to continue to succeed?
Yeah, well, I think, thank you. I think a nonprofit venture is something that's new to me, and so I think if there's people who have gone down that route and might have some insight into what it means to create and sustain that, I think that would be valuable.
Somebody that's been down that road. Let's give him a big round of applause. Thanks so much for being here, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, so what is coming up? So next week, we are going to put a wrap on the AI series that we've done. So we've kind of looked under the hood, nuts and bolts type stuff. We've looked at some folks who are using AI day in and day out to help them with their jobs or whatever. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about where is this going. And of course, none of us have a crystal ball, but we're going to do our very best to try to have a good conversation about what's coming up in the AI world. I think that's going to be super compelling, super fun. So encourage you to be here. Anybody you know that's interested in AI, which I think we all are kind of, right? I mean, it's a big deal. So that's coming up next week. We have a secret, apparently, coming up on the 8th and the 15th, although they're solidifying. We've got some people to plug in there, and then we got Chick-fil-A coming on October 29th. This is one to mark. Rumor has it they're bringing in some sandwiches, some breakfast sandwiches for us, which should be pretty fun. So keep that in mind. Work up your appetite. Okay, so like I said, we have a couple openings in the schedule. Unfortunately, they're a little closer to us than we would normally like, but we are filling those, and we always take a break over the holidays. So we've still got, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 openings in the schedule between now and that holiday break. So if somebody that you know would like to get up on this stage and tell us their story, please let us know. Find us, talk to them. We'll make the process as easy as we can for them. And we'd love to have them on stage. With that, I wish you an awesome rest of your week. Thanks so much.